Hello, my name is Daniel, and in this video I'll talk about the science of dreams and why we as humanity need to invest way more resources into this world of dreams than we're currently doing. Unfortunately, most people do not think it's important that we dream, even though we're doing it every day, right? We're doing it every day in a way that's not really fun because, we're sleeping and then we forget about the dream right away. We don't have much experience about it, and so then we think it's not valuable. And so it's kind of amazing after like centuries of Western progress that we have in nature this thing called dreaming that exists, and then people think it's not valuable. Now that's kind of like a very contrarian truth that very few people agree with me on, is that dreaming is actually very foundational to reality, and it's a vehicle to understand yourself, not only yourself, but also to understand consciousness, these big questions that we've asked. That scientists, academics, people have asked to understand the nature of the mind, to understand the nature of reality. These are really the deepest questions that exist, and dreams are these ships that we can take every night to go into this world, to explore the mind in a way that's impossible to do while we're awake. And like this could be a great paradigm, a great new paradigm also for mental health, to be able to face your fears, do things that give you a new perspective over your own life, deal with anxieties, fears, trauma, all these kind of things. So there's a lot of vast applications. Now, to build this industry is actually quite difficult because other than lucid dreaming, which has been like validated as a scientific concept in the 70s, there hasn't been that much interest by the public. There hasn't been much interest by any industry to invest into this. And there's been people tinkering and building and experimenting, different devices, something you wear while you sleep. Different applications to train you how to lucid dream, but the reality is none of it really works very well yet. And there's a few universities that contribute with research, but I do think we just need way more capital and way more resources to have scientific breakthroughs from which we can then build something that people could access on a regular basis, something that could get people really excited into this, and really they can experience what it means to dream in this way. And because right now it's like most people do not know. And so I've been exploring this, for the past 7 years, and it's been very difficult. And obviously, ideally, we just go straight to the product, right? But to build a great product, you need to have some, think about like Apple when it started. It was all this other stuff that came, this research, all these kind of things that existed, from which Apple drew, and then they build, something. And so now we only have with LLMs and generative AI and with neural interfaces, we have more of these technologies now to enable some of this, what I'm speaking of when I'm saying, okay, we can build an interface by which we can dream on a regular basis to be able to explore our own mind. But ideally, we would need more capital from people who understand this is important for various reasons. I've mentioned a few, and I can talk about this very long, but I'll try to keep this video brief because the point is to get to the point. So the point is we need more capital because this is a valuable thing. And when we have more capital, then we can do more research. From more research, we can have scientific breakthrough. From scientific breakthrough, we can then build this industry. We can then build products. We can build technology. We can build businesses. And I think this can definitely happen like that. And so I've been investing, my resources, and I've been building a network to explore this in a way. Well, obviously, ultimately, the point is to build, to build a product, to build an interface. But it's also difficult to build something magical when we don't have these scientific breakthroughs yet. And that's kind of the conundrum. We could build and tinker again to train people. For some people who are interested in this. But the idea is how can we build something that everyone could use, and it would just give people access without them having to learn, how to lucid dream, and it would just work. Just like you getting into a car, you don't know how the car works, you just drive it somewhere. And so then it's the idea of building this automobile for the mind. This automobile for the mind that you get into, we don't have to call it dreams if people don't like this word of dreams, but it's something that, gives you a visual representation of your mind that you can interact in a first-hand way. And I do think that's very important because in the age of AI, we need to ask ourselves, what does it mean to be human? How can we reinvent ourselves? With sort of the mental health pandemic, we really need to have a new avenue for people to explore their fears, their trauma, their anxieties, ways that they can deal with and solve themselves, with the help also of a therapist and other mechanisms. But I think it is something that is unfortunately not happening really because there's not much interest. And I'm probably one of the biggest investors in the world. What is that like? It's what does that mean? Like it doesn't, it means like not many people investing in this, you know? We don't have like billions and billions of dollars going into this industry like we have with AI or blockchain or robotics or other things. But the mind is actually a very, very important inquiry and very important field from which we should like actually explore reality. And you know, if we have better answers about understanding reality, then we can cure ourselves, we can heal ourselves, you know, just how like computer industry made everything more efficient. You know, we need also an industry to heal ourselves. And you know, there's more interest now in meditation, yoga, things like that. So that's great. But I think like dreams is really this way of supercharging this and getting a visual representation of your mind. And in a way, it's also fun and entertaining. Like, you know, if you think about being able to go into your dreams in a way we can experience it just like during the waking state, it's kind of like phenomenal that exists in nature. Dreams is something that exists in nature. It's not something, you know, artificial in the sense. It's something that we do while we sleep. Sleeping is a normal thing. Everyone sleeps. And so it's a natural part that we haven't really rediscovered yet because we're so busy on focusing on the waking state, and nothing wrong about that. You know, we can keep doing that, but I think there's more to reality than waking state. There's other planes of reality, and all of these things are very contrarian yet still, and very difficult to understand maybe, but like, you know, this is where we're going basically. Where, you know, as humans, we need to sort of also explore other planes of reality because we need to have a deeper understanding of what it means to be in reality. What is reality? What is consciousness? You know, I mean, the same kind of thing that AI and longevity industry is also trying to solve. Dreaming and the mind, you know, this is really like, you know, it's not just internal. It's not just like in your head. You know, it is really, lucid dreaming is this proof that it's inverting like the internal into the external. And that's actually a deep idea. This idea that like, you know, it's not just like it's not just psychology. It's just way more. It's more than psychology. And yeah. So, you know, I can talk about this for a very long time, but I said I will keep it brief. So, yeah. So I hope you realize that dreaming is really like a new way to rediscover yourself, to solve your problems in a way just like a car. It gives you more mobility, or a ship or a plane. You go faster certain places. And so I think dreaming could also be this new automobile for the mind, where we can go way faster because we're not stuck in different loops or torturing ourselves or, you know, destroying ourselves. All these kind of things where we're getting in our own way, we can then sort of get out of our own way, heal ourselves, and then have more meaningful, more sort of happiness and more freedom in a way. And I think that's important. So yeah, all right. Keep it at that. Thanks. Thank you for watching.